everyone. Pleasure everyone for coming out and join us at our Black History Month conversation celebration at TNAT Holistic Wellness Center. My name is Elijah Lewis. I am the author of Your Jewels in Your Journey, as well as a motivational speaker. And today I have the honor and the privilege of being in the company of two extraordinary authors, as well as one of the giants in our community who founded this illustrious place of healing, place of learning our history and culture. And with that said, I will introduce you to today's panelists. So I'm going to start off with Miss Michelle Gracie. So Michelle Gracie is an actress, author, model, producer, director, and owner and founder of Sweet Victory Productions. She has been in multiple films and major networks such as AMC, Apple TV, HBO, and PBS. She has been a leading actress in a feature film called Truth. She currently is a working actress in New York City. She has her first mobile book out right now, Becoming a Great Man, which is right here. It's a great read, by the way. Oh, but she has on, hey, she came prepared. She has on her on the panel as well. See, great minds think alike. Which is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, Google Play, and Kindle. She is currently working on Becoming a Great Man 2, and is working on turning her book into a film. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that we have Black love on the panel, because she is currently engaged to Trey Brown. Although Trey could not be in attendance with us, there will be time to not this September in Baltimore, Maryland. So we want to congratulate them.
Congratulations.
We wish them the best in their newfound love and their union. So definitely want to acknowledge that.
Thank you so much.
Our next, in fact, speaking of Trey, I will acknowledge him, even though he could not attend. We do appreciate his willingness to participate. How you doing, brother? If you're welcome, you have a seat. We're having a Black History Month conversation, so definitely want to join us. Okay, go ahead, take your time, brother. All right. So Trey Brown is a preacher, poet, producer, musician, DJ, philanthropist, and activist from New Britain, Connecticut. He is the founder of the Prolific Poetry Collective, as well as the co-founder of the New Britain Racial Justice Coalition. Trey's goal is to create a change by using his gifts to tell stories, as well as make a substantial impact in his community. Trey aspires to lead this generation by helping anyone and everyone in need. Trey hopes in one day running for political office in order to make sure justice and equality rolls down like the mighty streams of water, and prosperity flows to the world we live in today. And in fact, his latest book, entitled Dreams of Tomorrow, which you can find on Amazon. Is anyone else they can find it, Michelle?
Amazon, yep, just Amazon.
Okay, definitely check out Dreams Are Tomorrow by his title is Pyro the Great, but definitely check this out on Amazon. I just started reading this yesterday. I haven't finished, but I definitely like what I've read so far. So please support Trey by going on Amazon and supporting his latest book. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, this is his 16th book, correct?
Yes.
All right, so yeah, this is book number 16 for Trey, so definitely give our support to our brother. All right, and our next guest on the panel, a man who's done so much greatness in our community, Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler Jr. was born on January 22nd, 1979 in Baltimore, Maryland. He is married to Camille Winkler, who has been with him since his 9th grade high school year. So congratulations, Doctor, and that's very wonderful to hear. Dennis and Camille are the proud parents of two sons, Dennis Winkler III and Jamal Winkler. Dr. Winkler has attended several higher learning institutions, including the African-centered school, Sojourner Douglas College, where he graduated honors magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree in administration, with a concentration in business administration. He completed a Master's of Science degree in clinical mental health counseling with an emphasis in spirituality and psychology at Loyola University of Maryland. Dr. Winkler has a PhD in counseling education supervision from Waynesburg University with a dissertation entitled Measuring the Relationship of Race-Based Trauma, Racial Identity, and Spirituality. Dr. Winkler is an entrepreneur, social scientist, assistant professor of graduate counseling, psychotherapist, business consultant, and scholar activist who has served his community all his adult life. He has lectured at countless seminars, workshops, and private sessions. He has served many individuals, groups, couples, families, and organizations in the progressive development of the traditionally overlooked and disenfranchised, namely the African American Black community. Dr. Winkler's mission is to equip individuals and families with the necessary tools to build stronger family units and communities. And last but certainly not least, in addition to Michelle and I, he's also a fellow 2014 graduate of Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. My good brother, Marquis Carrington. Marquis Carrington is the author of The Birth of the Yogi and I Met God in the Gutter. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, that is your latest release, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so that's his new release as well. And he is a Baltimore-raised poet and author. He got his start in high school in the creative arts group Poetic Lyricists. The group consisted of multiple mediums of expression, and he found his voice through that experience. Today, he is a certified yoga instructor, podcaster, youth advocate, and musician. Through every medium he chooses to work, he works to bring joy, awareness, and hope to people from his city and around the world. So with that being said, these are our panelists, and I am going to go ahead and get started with the conversation. So, ladies first, we're going to start off with Miss Michelle. How are you doing today, Michelle?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to be here too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you all for showing up. And definitely want to start off with this book, Becoming a Great Man. I first of all thoroughly enjoyed it. The way you talk about the journey that Cyrus and his family go on to be better in their lives, and especially tying their spirituality aspect to it, I think is truly amazing. But what I always like to ask fellow authors is, what's the inspiration behind their book? So my first question to you is, what was the inspiration behind writing Becoming a Great Man?
So, I'm going to say like I always say from the beginning, I saw scenes of the movie. Like I saw visions of the movie first. And it was during a period of time where I was going through a real bad breakup. And I didn't understand why I was getting these visions of seeing this man. All I saw was the middle of the story. He was in a body of water. And I kept seeing it. But in the midst of me seeing it, I kept crying because of the breakup. And until one day, I remember sitting on the couch, and I was just, the whole year, not even just the breakup, that whole year, 2018, was pretty rough. I was going through trial after trial after trial after trial. It was one thing after another. And by the end of the year, I was on the couch crying my eyes out. And then, but the vision came back to me again, but it came back so strong that I had to stop crying and write it down. And I remember saying that to someone, and she said, I was saying it to a stranger about the book and how the book was birthed. And she said, you were going through the birthing process. You were birthing something. Like you were going through labor pains. Like she was like, how long did you have the visions? Was it for 9 months? And I said, yeah, actually it was, because it was for 9 months. And I believe the book was created out of pain, but instead of making a sour book or bashing a man, I turned him into a great one. So I turned my lemons into lemonade. And writing the book was healing for me. The breakup did a number on me, but I came out okay, and I came out an author of a great book. So I used my pain to propel my purpose, and that's behind the story. And as I was writing, I realized that a lot of what I went through was going to be in the story. Like I had a story to tell. Like I could use. I didn't go through writer's block. I knew like the story just flowed, and I was using bits and pieces of the things that I went through, not knowing that I was going to write about it one day, or that I was going to use it for a book. And so everything just was connected, and it was meant for me to go through.
Yeah.
So I can be, so I can write the story.
Absolutely.
So.
And I like how you said that too, because sometimes, especially I'm learning this as an author myself, sometimes a lot of stuff that's on your mind is meant to be shared with people. Like if it's on your mind a lot, maybe that's a sign that says you need to tell that to people. And I like how you said you turned this pain you were going into something wonderful, because the way I see things, I think sometimes the greatest art does come from pain.
Yes.
And for you to also not allow that pain to be turned into something negative but positive speaks to the power of creativity that you have, because a lot of times we want to just turn that pain into something ugly and bitter, as opposed to saying, hey, how can we flip that and turn it into something better?
Yeah.
And I think that's something you should be really committed for doing, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
So my next question with you is, because one of the things that stood out to me is, and it's kind of interesting, I was having this conversation with somebody who was sharing her poetry, and I said, I liked how you tied your poetry to spirituality. And when I read your book, I see that Cyrus and his family are on this journey, but they need to learn about God and how they can be led to, the better life that they want, and ultimately for Cyrus himself to be that great man.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, how important would you say spirituality and having a relationship with God is important in one's life's journey? And also, how has your book impacted your own spirituality and relationship with God?
So, first question, the spirituality part, right?
Yes.
I believe that it's very important because we are spiritual beings first. In the beginning, we was with the Spirit, we was with Spirit, we was with God, and we were created in His image. So that's, by us being spiritual beings first, feeding that part and making sure that is okay is how everything else can be okay. Like your mind, your physical part, your mind, body, and soul, but making sure your spirituality is rooted and grounded, and not saying that, my God is the only way, but that's how I connect and keep my spirituality grounded, is with God. He introduced Himself to me, and He came to me, and He revealed Himself to me. And so when He did that, I was curious about who He was. And I think that's what spirituality and God is just a revelation of it. And it's a journey, and it's a journey that's forever taken. Once it starts, and it never ends. But the fact of the matter is, you have to start somewhere. You have to start, and it's super important, especially faith alone, because you can't see God, but you know that He's there. You just have that. It's something that you can't explain. You have that experience with Him. You have that connection with Him. You have that relationship with Him. And having faith requires the development of your spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And within, in all walks of religion, it requires faith. But my religion happened to be Christianity, and I'm a believer of Jesus Christ and God. So, but it's very important in having faith. And this book helped me trust God more.
Absolutely.
It helped me to hear God more. And because while I was writing it, it's not like I was doing it on my own. He was guiding me, because I remember a point, I got to a point in the book where I had to stop, and I don't call it writer's block. I just had a question. I said, how can this character go from this place to this place by foot? I didn't know, and I could have easily looked it up on Google.
Mm-hmm.
I could have easily, but I needed Him to speak to me directly, and I believe God speaks to you directly through other people. And I was out one day, and that question, I stopped writing, and that question still, I asking God that question, and I was out one day, and randomly, one of my friends told me the answer without me even asking him. It just came up in a random conversation. And I had to take out my notes and write it down, okay, that's the answer. And that's how I knew God was leading me on this journey with writing this book, because there was no way that my natural mind thought of this story. It's no way. I didn't sit down and think of it. Like I said, the visions came to me, and I had to trust that, and it required faith that even while writing and then after writing, because I didn't plan strategically for this. I didn't have money saved up to publish this book. I just wrote it. Matter of fact, I didn't know how to write a book. I'd never been an author before, but God was leading me throughout the way. He said, do this, write the rough draft. You know, I just listened, and I trust the journey, and I trust God, and He led me through the whole thing. And I think it was because of my faith.
Yeah, and I like how you said that you have to start from somewhere. You know, it's like that old saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins the first steps.
Yeah.
So, and especially because I feel you on that as a first-time author, it's like you don't expect, like, okay, I can't really do this. I'm not meant to be an author. But if you start, you never know where. If you don't start, you never know where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
And I like that you did take those steps and you found out more about yourself, and you were able to get to where you are today. And I think that's the most important thing for our fellow authors is to just begin. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And to my next point, in reference to the title of your book, would you say one is born great, or does one have to go through certain experiences to be great?
I believe greatness was already written for us from the very beginning. And it was already instilled in us before we even got here. Like the plan, your purpose. So we have to, you know, when you're born, you know, you're like fresh. You know, you're innocent, you're fresh out the womb, and anything is possible. But as you go through life and you get to those conversations or those negative experiences that kind of shape you and kind of tear you away from what you were meant to be from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. This isn't new. Me being an author, me being an actress, this was something that was already destined for me from the very beginning. And I feel like I went through so many trials and tribulations that I forgot my greatness. Mm-hmm. I was already great from the very beginning, and we kind of stray away from that. And I feel like going through those things, going through the negative challenges and trials, it got me to a point where I was like, okay, show me God, show me myself. Show me who you called me to be. Yeah. And then, you know, He revealed it to me, and then, you know, I had to believe it for myself, and I had to take on that. You know, I had to believe that, okay, this was what I was born to do. I was born to do great things. This was already set. And I feel like He doesn't change His mind no matter what you go through. It doesn't change. The plan doesn't change. And sometimes it gets even better. Like the story just gets better. Like, you know, those trials and tribulations, it just makes it to be a greater story.
Yeah.
But you were great from the very beginning.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though, is wonderful too, is that we all have a story to tell. It's just that it's up to us to determine how that story is going to play out. And it's kind of funny how you mention it, because I thought about one of my favorite verses, I guess you say, from the Bible, is like how Jeremiah 29:11 says how the Lord has plans for you.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that, and I think that it's just up to us how we want to go about that.
Yeah.
And I like what you said in reference to that. Pretty much it seems that you could say that we are born great, but despite the experience that we go through, that doesn't stop us from our potential of being great. We still, as long as we still have that potential to do that, we can achieve that.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question is, I'm gonna do a little backstory for this next question. Because I remember when you were in the process of releasing your book a year ago. I remember Marquis and I were both at the R House, and this is when you were kind of giving out the pre-orders of your book. And I never forget you asked me this question. I think Marquis and I were talking about, what do you think this book is going to be about? And I remember you asked me, you were like, do you think the book is a physical journey or is it a spiritual journey? And that always stuck out to me. And I think it's better that we ask this question directly to you because you are the author. So with that being said, was the focus in writing about Cyrus and his family's journey more so about their physical journey or their spiritual journey, or was the focus to show if there's a connection between the two?
There's a connection between the two.
Okay, all right. I like it.
Because as you was asking the question, I was already in my head, I was going to say both.
Okay.
It's about both.
I like that, yeah, because that was definitely, and I kind of sensed that how, as I was reading, I think it seems like you get so much caught up in the physical journey, but you do forget there are some spiritual aspects to it. And I think that's kind of like that for all of our lives, that we all on this physical journey, but a lot of people like to say we are spiritual beings having human experience.
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah, I definitely see that. But I definitely want to make sure I ask that question, because I remember you asked it. I was like, yeah, that's a good question. I never thought about that. So I like that you put that twist. And I'm hoping that the readers will feel the same way, and when they get a chance to read the book too. So my fifth question to you is, when writing your book, did you see yourself or anyone you knew in any of the characters when it came to the challenges that they went through? Also, what did you learn about yourself when writing this book? And I think you touched on it a little bit, but feel free to expound on it again if you would like.
Did I see any challenge? Can you repeat the first part?
So when you wrote your book, did you see yourself or anyone you knew in the characters and the challenges they went through?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the wife, she's me. she is me. Right? So the wife in the book, she's me. So her character was based off of me, and a lot of the characters in the book was based off of people that I knew. Like didn't use their names of course, but their personalities or their journeys or things they had told me along the way. So I definitely used. And then also, the main character, as I was writing, I was just like, oh, this is my ex-boyfriend.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is the character, because you'll in the second book you'll get it. You'll get it. This is that story, that breakup that I went through.
Wow.
So was that the plan from the initial beginning? No. And I don't think if God told me clear to write a story about your breakup and your ex-boyfriend, I probably would have said, no, I'm not doing this. I don't want to write about him. I'm not making him a great man. But as I was writing, I was like, oh, this character, it's familiar. Like, I know this character. This is, so it didn't start off as I want to write a story about what happened to me. I started writing, and then God started speaking to me about using what happened in the story.
Absolutely.
So, and I learned with myself, that how I was I learned how determined I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how no matter what I went through, like, I was going to get it done.
Absolutely.
Cyrus, no matter what he went through, he was going to get it done.
Yeah.
And I love that about myself, and that's something that other people see in me too. Is I will figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't take no for an answer. If I can't go through the front door, I'll try the window. I'll try the back door. Like, I'm persistent. Like, I'm just determined, like, to get it done. With just writing this book, I was determined to get it done. Cyrus, in the book, he was determined to make a better future for his family, like, and to provide for his family. Like, it's just that willpower, just do it. Just get it done. And I don't talk about what I'm gonna. I don't just talk about what I'm gonna do. I actually do it.
Absolutely. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's definitely really great too, because what I thought about as you were answering questions is just amazing how they always say art imitates life. And
yes.
Some of the experiences that we go through in our life, on our journey, sometimes we decide to make it into an art form, but either way we can still learn from it, whether it's real or fiction. There's a lesson in everything that we go through. And part of your question, you actually kind of answered to part 6, because as I read your bio, you did learn that you are working on becoming a great man too.
Yes.
So, of course, we want everybody to go out and read the first book. But if you could, and I think you gave a little detail, but just to ask the question, what could we possibly expect after we all read the first book? What can we possibly expect from becoming a great man too?
Y'all not gonna like Cyrus.
Okay.
I'm not gonna like him. Well, no, I won't say that, but it's the second book is very emotional. It's very emotional. it might stir up some emotions in you, might make you mad, sad, you know, but you can see the faith, you can see the difference between the faith that was presented in this book versus the faith that's going to be presented in the second book. And you can see the growth of it, like the growth of both characters, Cyrus and Esther, that's the wife's name, both characters and how their faith grew within the process. But the end is going to be beautiful.
Okay.
It's going to be beautiful.
Okay.
I think it's going to, people are not going to expect the ending, but it's still going to be beautiful though.
Okay. Well, definitely we are excited to when that does come out, and we definitely wish you well in the writing of that, and we look forward to that being released very soon.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on, and thank you, Michelle. We're going to move on to, oops, I'm sorry, I forgot those in the bio, excuse me. So we're going to move on to my good brother, Dr. Ausar. How you doing today, sir?
Greetings, peace.
All right. Well, first of all, brother, thank you for letting us be here today. And it's a pleasure to have the founder of TNAT on our panel. So, again, like I always kind of start out with, I want to talk about, inspiration to, a person's journey and where they got to where they are today. And what would you say was your biggest inspiration in founding the TNAT Holistic Wellness Center?
Can I back up a little bit?
Say again?
Can I back up a bit?
Yeah, it's definitely, brother. Take your time, brother.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've been on a panel with people that's like really younger than me. Like I'm typically like the youngest person or one of the younger people. Now y'all have me feeling old right now. Not like old in a bad way, but it's like older. Let's say that, right? Yeah. And I appreciate it, right? And I'm gonna tie it back into your question even. Like I'm looking at y'all and I'm looking at me. I don't know how I imagine y'all like really like I don't know. I'm thinking not y'all ain't got 20s or lower. 20s. Okay.
Late
okay.
20s. Yeah.
Late 20s.
28.
28. Okay. How old are you?
28 on the 12th.
Oh, you 28? You look like you. I ain't gonna say because brothers sometimes they catch too much flack. Like you're younger, you know. But I know how it feels though, like to look or be younger. And also be out there and people not really also taking you serious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my journey's been that. You know what I mean? So
I understand.
So my journey of creating TNAT Holistic Wellness Center, it's been a lifelong journey. I'm a native of Baltimore. I love Baltimore. And what happens is a lot of times I feel like Baltimore hasn't gotten its just due in many cases. I think we're a talented city, an artistic city. I'm going to go back a little bit, like I'm even going to say like even hip hop wise, right? Like it just never got its due. Or even club music, which is going all around the world right now. And you almost got to fight and say where it really came from, Baltimore, right? So I aspire to be or aspire to be a beacon of light. I wanted to create a space. The journey's long, so I can't really give it to you, but I've been an entrepreneur, a business person for many years. I decided to go back to school because I wanted to fully equip myself to better aid my community in a means on a very psycho-emotional level. So, so that's the inspiration. My mother, my father, my family, creating a space where we can have conscious thought, conscious conversation, where we can heal people. So I guess what it came out to be is a holistic wellness center that hits you in the mind, body, and spirit. Like you can hear back there, we have a restaurant that hits you in your soul, whether you eat traditional, I don't know which one to call traditional, but whether you eat meat or you're vegan. I'm a vegan, but we have both, and both are all is delicious. So we try, but we also want to hit you culturally when we talk about food. We want to hit you culturally when you come up in this space. We want black or brown or African, whatever you desire to be a thing that you embrace, an idea, a reality that you embrace, so we can heal. Upstairs we offer counseling, men's groups, women's group. Of course, you see we got all types of products and stuff. Everything here is intentional. We have downstairs, we have martial arts, we have Tai Chi, we have meditation, yoga. Y'all can go in the back.
No.
Restaurant Uber?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
All right.
You can go in the back. Yeah, please.
Morning.
Yeah, so we can, yeah, you know how to make an entrance. You cool.
Yeah, man. Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah, I see you. So, please. So, definitely, that's what we want. We want to create a space where it just feels like home.
I like that. And that's definitely wonderful. And that just seems like it kind of goes back to us as, you know, traditionally as African people being in that community and that village mentality. So I think that's wonderful that you've created that space for us. And to my next question, and this is kind of amazing because Dr. Ausar, Marquis, Michelle, my godfather and I, we were kind of having this conversation about mental health and things of that nature. And it's just wonderful being that you are a therapist on the panel. And that brings me up to this question. So being that your dissertation is measuring the relationship of race-based trauma, racial identity, and spirituality, what would you say are the biggest roadblocks in the Black community healing from their trauma and tapping into the spirituality let me repeat that. What would you say are the biggest roadblocks in the Black community healing from their trauma and tapping into the spirituality, being that we are a spiritual people by nature?
You asked some good questions. I ain't gonna lie. And you also like give good, like you sum up what people say really well. You know.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I say that if you ever want to, do some therapy, might do a second career or something like that, do a little gig or something.
I may have to look into that. Thank you for the suggestion.
But yeah. So I think I just did a presentation this morning speaking about tapping back into our Africanity, into our Blackness. We've been taught that our Blackness, that our Africanity, that our culture, our history, and this happens to be Black History Month, we've been taught that it's a negative thing. I'm talking on all levels, mind, body, spirit, religion, whatever. We've been taught that what is essentially ours is negative, and we move further and further away from it. And what we do is we really, when we out in this world, lots of times we say, look, I'm gonna imitate them because they represent success.
Yeah.
And I would say that right there, that idea is flawed, and it keeps us from tapping into our spirituality because they build big buildings and big guns and all these other things. And we got to look at the society though. The society is failing. The society is not just failing Black people, it's failing African Black people. But we continue to imitate them, thinking that we're going to get a piece of the pie when most people are still struggling even to look like them. What I mean by them, I mean white people, but not just necessarily white people, but that white ideology, which isn't working for anyone, including those people who identify as white.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah, definitely. So I think what you described pretty much, we just have to stop trying to identify our identity with people who try to oppress us, whereas we need to return to, like you said, our own identity and our own thoughts and belief systems to really tap into that spirituality. And to piggyback off also now, so do you also think that's also holding us back because we've been through all that trauma of losing our identity? Is that a big piece of why we can't tap back into our spirituality?
Absolutely. I think, and I'm glad you asked that question, because when you say spirituality and you say African or Black, there's no separation. So what the essence of Black people, the essence of spirituality is it is a part of the culture. Yes. It's not a separate thing when you talk about African Black people. It's only in westernized culture where you can separate spirituality from a thing. Hence we say we separate the school from religion, or school education from religion, or education from spirituality, right? And then we fall in this game where my religion is right.
Yes.
And that is not a very African thing or Eastern thing even, where we, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Please keep going, brother.
What was the question again? Make sure I.
No, well, the question, and you were doing a great job, by the way. No, the question I was asking was what was based off of your dissertation that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are the biggest roadblocks in the Black community healing from their trauma And then, like I said earlier, what's stopping us from tapping into the spirituality that we are naturally given as a spiritual people?
Okay, and I also think we do tap into it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's why we're still here. I think we've tapped into it through song, through dance, through whatever, and that's why we're here. But once we reach a certain point, we start to try to imitate the other, and hence we get stuck and don't go any further.
Yeah.
We're here because of our spirituality, but once we reach a certain point, we want to be like them. And what I mean by them is not necessarily a people, but there is a majority of people who practice it, and that's called white ideology. Hence, we have internalized racism. Everything African is spiritual. Just our gathering here is spiritual. There's no such thing as a thing that is not spiritual when it comes to African black people.
Wow.
So just you writing that book was a spiritual experience, whether or not it had anything to do with religion ideologies or whatever, but everything is spiritual. Our connections are spiritual. So I think we have it, and that's why we're still surviving.
Yeah.
But the more we imitate them, we become anti-spiritual.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I want to ask what that point is, because I kind of got an idea or a thought of what the point could be, where we elevate our consciousness and then go off to be something else. What do you think is a line of delineation?
I'm not sure if it's that clear, bro, but you might got the point. You might help me out. But what I will say is, to answer that question, what I would say is the trauma that we experience and that we see and we witness in our communities and what we're bombarded with through media is that something's wrong with us. In fact, when you experience trauma in general, you begin to think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's on a societal level or if it's on an individual level. If a child was traumatized by their family, you begin to say, what is wrong with me? Am I worthy? Am I good enough? Is my fault?
Yes. Yeah.
Now on a societal level, African black people have been traumatized by white hegemony or oppression or whatever you want to call it. Hence, we begin to challenge ourselves and we begin to question ourselves whether or not, or what's wrong with us. So we begin to look, and the more educated we become, the more, in fact, education to some degree, it can broaden your perspective as well. But it's this education that we get from them that has us wanting to be more like them, because we just see, I know, I can't explain it, but oppression is all around us. And if oppression is all around you, and you look at them as the winning team, you're just going to want to be like them. So and although that's wrong, because they're not winning either.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, to my next question, being that you are a therapist and you definitely are a scholar and everything of that nature, would you say that the black community has gotten better in removing the stigma of mental health in order to heal from that trauma? Or if not, what do we do? What do we have to do as a collective to better remove that stigma?
I think mental health is fad right now. I think it's really popular. I think definitely the stigma is dropping. But I also think on the other side that we have to still be careful even with that, because anything that's commercialized can become problematic. And what's commercialized has been used as a tool to further oppress us. And what I say, so yeah, I think mental health has become more popular in our community, especially when you talk about certain age groups. I mean, even people who are elders, they're participating in mental health. But I also think that mental health has to look like us. It has to look like us. It has to be something that we can trust. So everything we do in this space is tailored towards mental health, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's martial arts, those herbs in the back, whether it's just coming here sitting down, whether you go upstairs and you get an individual session, a group session, but it has to look like us, because we have to return to us so that we can heal. And if we don't return to us, we will not heal. And the oppressors need to return to themselves either. to themselves. And we have to know that they are also hurt.
Hurt, yes, yeah.
And the reason why they hurt other people is because they were hurt in the first place.
Yes.
Hence, why are we imitating hurt people?
It's like that old saying, hurt people hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I like how you said that, because I think for some people in our community, you could maybe, and you can elaborate this if you want, maybe make the argument that what stops a lot of us maybe wanting to go to therapy or getting healing is because the therapist or the person, like you said, does not look like me. They can't understand what I'm going through.
Mhm.
So for some of our people, they may say, why should I go in the first place? If this person doesn't look like me, can't understand my trauma, then why am I here almost? That's almost what, I like how you touched on that, because it's almost like if you can't relate to what I'm going through or understanding it, then how can I possibly get healing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true. If you can't relate to me, then how can I trust you? And that's part of the trauma. I'm not going to say on an individual level that a white therapist, let's say white therapist, right, or someone outside of our racial group can't help us, right? But I'm going to say the trauma will bring up barriers. Because trauma, the thing that traumatizes you, if you're traumatized by it, is the very thing that you want to stay away from. Sometimes that works for you, but sometimes that works against you.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So hence on a more micro level, a person who's been traumatized on a domestic violence relationship or what have you, if there's a certain if someone reminds her or him of the person who caused that trauma, likely they would stay away from that person.
Yeah.
So likely we stay away, like we understand we have physical and mental health issues that we are not really dealing with. And why? Because we don't trust it.
Yeah.
And there are people out here that can't help us. I'm saying even that look like them, but we stay away from them even because we say that you are an agent of that system. You are a representative of that system. You represent the insurance companies and all these type of things. And to some degree that might be true, but it's not true to a degree that many times that we consider them to be truths.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
Yeah, please, go ahead, Michelle.
You said something that stood out to me. Running away from it can actually hinder us, right?
Mhm.
Especially I feel like you said avoiding the person that caused that trauma. But let's talk about avoiding those conversations about the trauma. Because I see recently that when something's brought up just casually between me and a friend, they say, oh, I'm triggered. Can we change the topic? And I'm just like, yes, I want to respect your boundaries, yes, but I encourage you the next time, press through it. Because I feel like talking it out, correct me if I'm wrong, talking about it brings healing. Exposing the wound to air. Because wounds, that's how wounds heal. Being exposed to air.
Yeah.
So, can talking help with healing? I mean, isn't that what therapy is?
It can do both. It can do both.
It can hinder too?
Yeah, it can actually cause more harm, more pain, more trauma if the person isn't ready. Now,
So it can't be forced.
well, it can be forced, but would it be healthy to force it, right?
Right.
Now, the thing is, some people stay there, and we want to see people change so much that we want to push them, but they're not ready. But also, to some degree, I feel like that staying there, what you're saying is true. Staying there, not addressing it, becomes a part of the problem. So as a therapist, let me just say like that. As a therapist, your goal is to get the person to process. Somebody said process earlier. So I was at another lecture. I'm sorry. So it's for us to process it, talk about it, right? But there's other ways that you can process that trauma. Something you can do without even saying one word. There's therapies like EMDR where you kind of go back in your memory and you use bilateral stimulation and you kind of take yourself back into that event. or you do all types of internal work to kind of go through those feelings. The thing is, when the person says, I'm triggered, there's nothing wrong with being triggered. You just have to know that you can be okay after you're triggered. If that person doesn't have resources or skill set to deal with what's going to come, then it might not be healthy. But the goal is to get the person to a place, a state, to have skills and resourcing, what it's called, being able to resource once those emotions do come up in them, so they can deal with them, so they can process them, so they can subside. And when those conversations come up, those triggers come up, that person that reminds them of that person or what have you comes up, you know you're going to be okay. We've all to some degree experienced that level of where you, like little traumas, right? Where the person that we were speaking to, or somebody we were upset with, you just couldn't, they did you wrong. And you know if you was around them, you were going to go off, you were going to lose your mind, you were going to probably punch them in their face, whatever. But as time went on, you processed it internally and did the work and let go of the anger or whatever it is. You kind of healed yourself to kind of be able to deal with those emotions. Those emotions no longer had you. Rather you were able to funnel them in different ways so that you could now talk to that person. Now approach that person. Not to say you didn't have any feelings, but you were able to deal with those feelings. The thing is, you have to be able to deal with the feelings.
So would you say that triggers are unaddressed wounds?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to my next question, Dr.
She's like an attorney over there. Are you an attorney?
No, I just okay.
No, she's supposed to. I rest my case.
I said it, and that's that. I said it, and that's that.
Make a point. I wasn't
No.
looking at me like I wasn't trying to make a point. I was just,
No, it is a point. You are. It was a great point though.
I would add, I like that you mentioned triggers because I think a lot of communities trigger right now.
Right.
In a lot of ways. I mean, when we get on our social media feed, it's triggering.
Absolutely.
And to heal, you have to be triggered. The trigger is the thing that made you go seek help.
And like things like yoga, right? You do yoga, right? Things like that. Not just yoga, the stretching. You have to do yoga and be mindful and then be able to know that you can feel those feelings and go through those feelings. And because people doing yoga and they're just doing positions. I can stretch. I can do this. I can put my leg behind my head. That don't mean that you're doing yoga, right? That means that you're flexible. That's good. You're flexible. But if you're really doing yoga, you tap into your body. You tap into those feelings. You're tapping in a way that's mindful, and you understand. I'm not going to run for those feelings. I'm going to engage those feelings. I'm going to realize those feelings will not overwhelm me. I got this.
Yes,
wow.
I'm definitely enjoying this. This is some great insight and some great conversation. And to my next point, Dr. Ausar, because I looked at TNAT's website and I just love your.
You're an attorney as well.
I'm dressed like one if you want to say that.
Say it again?
I'm dressed like one if you want to say that.
Well, you sharp. Y'all sharp. They all said they from Poly. I was like, what? Look, they said, look, they got me scared up with this panel. You know what I'm saying? They got a PhD, but they from Poly. Look.
Are you from City?
No.
You're cool. Like you say, oh, Dr. Ausar.
Oh, I'm cool. Y'all not gonna get me, huh?
No. We're not gonna get you. As long as you didn't go to that other school, you're cool.
Okay, cool.
But looking at the website, you talked about a lot of the philosophy about healing when it comes to the mind, spirit, and the body. How important is it for us to have all three be harmonious? And do they all impact each other, or are they separate from one another? And last part, why is it that we sometimes put emphasis on one of those aspects versus the other two? So for example, we may focus more on physical health than mental health. Or we may say things like, well, I don't need to go to therapy. I'm going to just pray my way through it and everything will get better and I'll just be able to go from there. So the first question, I'm going to slow it down. How important is it for all three to be harmonious, the mind, the spirit, and the body?
A necessity. It's necessary.
Absolutely.
Absolutely necessary. You have to do all three, especially when we talk about trauma, especially in our community. whether that be individual level trauma or collective trauma.
I agree. And I think that leads me to the second question, because from what I can just take from that answer is that it's obvious that that all three are going to impact each other. If you are impacted in one, would you say it's going to have an impact in the other two areas as well?
Yes, I mean, it's going to impact you. Trauma is a psychophysical thing, or psychophysiological thing. Trauma it impacts your nervous system. Trauma puts you in a state of hyper awareness, hyper arousal as a result. You might have a what is it called, a hyper startle, I'm looking for another word, but your startle response, you're on alert all the time.
Yeah.
And the main thing about trauma is you don't trust. So hence, because you're so hypersensitive even, or hyper alert, it's sending all types of stress hormones through your body. And so your body is it's not supposed to be like that all the time.
Right.
You're in fight and flight mode. So even what trauma does more than anything, it destroys our relationships. Because if you can't trust other people, you can't be in healthy relationships. In fact, what trauma does even more than that, it breaks down your ability to trust yourself. So I can't trust myself, and because I don't trust myself, I don't trust anyone else. And in fact, I don't trust what I'll do if I get in a relationship with them. Whatever type of relationship that is, if that's my brother, my sister, my mother, my romantic relationship, I struggle with trusting people. In fact, it's not uncommon to hear people, especially in the press community, say, I don't like people. I don't trust people. I don't like them. It's just, in fact, it's kind of cool. I don't trust people. I don't trust people.
It's been normalized.
It's been definitely normalized. It's been overly normalized.
The thing that you sparked when you said that is the business aspect. We struggle to do business with each other because it's a lack of trust. But it's a lack of trust with self. I've talked to so many people and they'll say, I don't like doing business with people because people change. I was like, no, you're thinking you're going to change. I don't have any fear of myself changing within this business structure if this is something that I've set my life around. I am a guy from a place. I am an author. I'm intending to do yoga. This is now my identity. So everything from this point forward is regarding that. I'm meeting people who are not having integrity. And I think that is something that therapy is going to allow us to get to, some integrity, like bringing those, I guess, that white self. Because I think that's what I received from what you were saying. We get to this point in our experience where there is a self that we have to show up with in the world that gets so successful that the self we had to leave at home or grandma's house in the cookout can't make it everywhere. Absolutely. So it's like that self has to come back down to the old self, but it's a hatred for the old self. It's a disgust. It's I can't be that everywhere. I'm code switching. And like now I'm taking this language that's simply a language, and I'm saying this is white. I'm talking white. I said I'm talking white to myself. I internalized that at a certain point.
Right.
So that has been a thought of mine as I've been doing the practice and thinking about the fight, the flight, and the freeze. Because the freeze is damaging relationships too, and it's like I'm not going to respond to anything. I'm just going to shut down.
I had something too. When you mentioned relationships, it prevents you or stops you from being in healthy relationships. So I'm currently in the most healthiest relationship I've ever been in. My fiance, he loves me, and it's healthy love. And it wasn't until I met him when I realized how much trauma I had. And it's because of my response to him. And I'm coming out of that survival mode and that fight mode. Like, certain times I'm talking to him, he's like, and I get to talking, and then I get to raise my voice. He said, honey, I heard you the first time. It's okay. It's okay. And I just keep going. But no, but you did it. And he was just like, I said yes. And I said, but no. He's like, but you don't have to. And I realized that I was so conditioned and used to doing that for so long. And now I'm in a relationship where I don't have to do that, it's very uncomfortable. It's very unfamiliar. I have to learn new ways, and you know, I have to be open to that. But it's a good thing.
Yes.
But his love helped me understand the trauma and the pain that I had that I never knew. I knew I went through it, but I didn't know the effects of it until now, because it's coming out.
Absolutely. I just said earlier in the workshop that when we have unresolved trauma, it's really important that we deal with people who have settled bodies, right? Because two bodies who haven't dealt with their trauma come together. In fact, they're most attracted to each other.
Yes.
I'm attracted to that opposite form of trauma, that trauma that shuts down. You know, then I might have the trauma to turn up and latch on. Then that person shuts down and closes off and isolates and do these type of things, right? So that's what kind of happens. But then the settled body can understand that person who turns up or that person who shuts down. Maybe they don't feel good, but you won't lose your cool. You won't be triggered, because that isolating person triggers that response in the person who wants to latch on is abandonment. Are you going to leave me? Where are you going? What are you doing? You understand? And then the person and the more that person is coming to that person's getting turned off and scared. I don't want no commitment. I don't want no trouble, because I don't want to be hurt either. And both people are operating out of a place of fear, of being hurt, left, abandoned, or what have you. And then that's what we have.
Yeah.
But if we're healed, or we, you know, it takes work.
It takes work.
Yeah.
And definitely to the last point of this question before we move on. So why do we only focus on maybe one aspect, like the mind, the body, the spirit? You know, like I said, some of us may only focus on physical health and forget about the mental, or some of us think that, you know, hey, I can just pray my way through the trauma that I've been, and that's all I need to do. So, you know, this is not just for you, Dr. So this is for everybody on the panel. They want to answer this as well. But why do you think we only focus on just one aspect of trying to better an aspect of our health?
Y'all want to go?
I think a lot about denial and avoidance. In my own experience, I was avoiding a lot of the pain. I was avoiding a lot of the pain. I was in denial. I didn't believe there was anything wrong with me. Then there came a point where I saw there was, and I was running from it. And I think it's a point in the journey where you have to face yourself. The yoga practice is a physical practice, but like the doctor mentioned, is also a spiritual and mental practice. The discomfort I feel on the mat is reflective to the discomfort I can feel in real life, in real life experiences. Like if I'm in a car and somebody's driving crazy in front of me, I can slow down, I can breathe, I can check in with myself, I can reflect on the fact that this person may have somewhere in their mind where they gotta get to wherever it is they're going quicker than I do, and it's not my business. I can have more agency based on these poses that I've been doing on the mat. I think the freedom definitely comes when you realize it's unified, but getting to that understanding is a self journey. And what it looks like is different for everybody. I don't think everybody's going to turn to veganism. I don't think everybody's going to show up for the mat. I don't think everybody is going to show up for walking. But I think the biggest thing is agency. Just giving people an array of the tools that are present. Art is a form of therapy for some people. You can paint. Cooking is a form of therapy. Some people are very elated and joyful about making a meal that enriches other people. So I think it's just finding that thing within self, and then coming back to community and sharing those things you found for yourself in a way where it's like, hey, I cook. Oh, brother, I draw. Oh, I write poetry. Oh, I do yoga. Hey, let's have a workshop at the Holistic Wellness.
Right.
I think it's a lack of knowledge and awareness, for example, like I struggled, we were talking about earlier, when I was younger, with panic attacks, right?
Yep.
And I knew that's what I was having, but I didn't know it was called anxiety, you know, until I got older. But as a child, you know, I'm just going through the motions. I'm just trying to breathe at this point. I'm just trying to find we're just trying to develop habits or healthy ways to control my breathing. And then it wasn't until 2017 when I was just like, oh my gosh, I've been suffering from this for a very long time, you know, or my depression, when I was suffering through depression. I just thought that I just wasn't eating and sleeping, or I was just really tired. And you know, not associating eating habits with depression, but when I was depressed, I would not eat because I'm upset, or because I'm just due, like those negative thoughts, and I would not eat for days, you know. So I didn't know that was, you know, I wasn't aware as a child. But when I grew up and I found knowledge, I sought knowledge and learned about what was happening with my body and with my mind, and it propelled me to connect with my soul, like my spirituality. I need to be grounded. I need something to hold on to, like something bigger than me, something, you know, more, you know, like healing, you know. So yeah, I just think lack of knowledge or awareness.
And I like how you said that. That's truly powerful right there. Dr. Ausar, do you want to elaborate or anything?
So the question is, why do people choose one more than the other?
Yes.
The mind, the body, or the spirit?
Exactly. Yes.
When I think about that, I think about. I think I agree with everything was already said, but in addition to that, I think we all have strengths, right? And some of us have been reared to do certain things certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so complex because sometimes the trauma leads us to doing certain things even. So lots of us have learned to disassociate, if you heard the term. Especially when you trauma, you don't want to deal with pain. And you've dealt with pain so much, some people will start cutting,
Yeah.
right, to kind of release that pain. That's one way. That's physical, right?
Yes.
I'm saying that's a physical. It's probably adaptive, but it's maladaptive as well, because it's only going to serve. It's not going to be a long-term strategy, but it can give a person release at that time. Some people use spirituality, but some of us use spirituality to an extent where it's unhealthy even. Where it can be called spiritual bypassing, which is another form of dissociation, where you don't deal with it. You understand?
Yeah.
You don't deal with the trauma. You kind of like you almost just bypass and act like it's not happening. I mean, we have a lot of spiritual bypass in our community where we don't say, we can't speak to the feelings, the hurt, the pain. Rather, we'll say, I'll pray for you, or I'm highly favored. How you doing? Blessed.
Yep.
Things like that when we know we're really hurting. You know, and I'm not. So it's things where we avoid things because it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And when we talk about physical, like if you work out, some people work out and they work out and they work out and they work out too much. Some people don't want to work out. And some people don't want to work out. They don't want to go to church. They don't want to go to spirituality. They don't want to read a book. They don't want to do a thing because they feel hopeless.
Yeah.
But people, because they learn, especially a lot of the trauma that we're talking about is complex trauma, which means that trauma has been going on, it's been deposited since you were a youth, right? And children have to find ways to deal with these very oppressive situations. So you learn how to dissociate.
Yeah.
So what you do is you learn to pray, you learn to do things that work for you while you're there.
Yes.
You learn to, whatever it is you learn, you begin to overdo it, in a sense. I wanted to say something else, but I think that's probably physical, mind, body, spirit, and mind.
Yeah.
Where we become very, anxiety becomes a norm. She spoke about, and anxiety is a way to kind of figure out a way to protect yourself. So your mind begins to look and chop things up and dice things up and begin to look at everything as the enemy, or there's going to be a major problem. I have to protect myself. All these different things that have physical responses. So I mean, it's just I do agree though. We need to learn more ways to adapt and cope with, and more than cope, we have to really do more than coping. We have to learn to really live. Thank you. Yeah, we have to learn to live.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you said that. And so I had last few questions for you, Dr. Ausar, and I like how what you've done with TNAT, giving us this space of healing. So and I think you touched on it earlier, but if you want to reiterate, please do. How important is it for the Black community to have their own space of healing? And my second part to that question was that something that you saw growing up, or was that motivation for you to create a space for Black healing?
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw. So you hit on it. I'm gonna make it short. So a major part, I grew up in more African-centered, Black-centered, culturally centered type of circles. The culture is rich, those people do Kwanzaa, those people go to different lectures and go to different celebrations, like when Afram was really African-centered. But it's always about community, and community is healing. Although we struggle with community because people hurt us, but the goal is to heal through community. We have to learn to deal with community so we can heal. So yeah, I saw that growing up, and I wanted it for my children. He's my son back there looking at me. So yeah, definitely, I wanted a space for my children so they could too be protected. I feel like, to kind of answer the first question a bit, we have to have these places of respite. We have to have these places of refuge. We have to have these places because the world out there will eat you up.
Yeah.
So we have to have a place where we can go, bandage up, heal up, and I'm gonna say elevate up, and then go back out there to fight the war again.
I like that. That's definitely beautiful. And to my last question for you, Dr. Ausar, you've done a great job answering all these questions. It's been a great conversation of this part of the panel. As someone who's been in academia as a scholar and a psychotherapist, who were some of your heroes in your field that you looked up to? For example, people like Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Dr. Amos Wilson, people of that nature. Who were some of the great people that you looked up to in your field that inspired you to do the work that you do today?
Okay, yeah, good question. I think I'll start more locally, and I'll say Dr. Henry Gregory. I just left him. A dear Baba elder who's done a lot of work, clinical work, past conceptual or theoretical papers, which a lot of our scholars do. We need that too. But where he and Khalid created a psychological theory back in the 90s, early 90s or what have you, and it was called Into Psychotherapy, which is an African-centered based psychotherapeutic model. So it's into NTU, and it's a Bantu word that means essence, right? So really, again, the healing, we have to go back to our essence, right? Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about, that's one person I look up to. Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about, she has, her dissertation is even, I can't remember what it's titled, but it's like loving that part of you that you're not supposed to love or something like that. But it's about that black part of you, right? So it's like, we're so, well, we'll say, well, you're black, or you're white, I got native in me, or why are you only talking about your black self? Well, because that's the part that's really hurt. It's not popular to be black in our minds lots of times. We have to kind of really do a lot of mental gymnastics to really appreciate ourselves in a society. So that part that's hurting us is that black part. Dr. Joy DeGruy, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, but I'm going to give you my top, Dr. Naeem Akbar, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Joy DeGruy. I'm going to give you some more. I think Dr. Wilson is genius. I want to Dr. Patricia Newton here in Baltimore, who she was a psychiatrist, and she did a lot of work with Dr. Wells and even and across the world. I'm trying to think of one person that's really, I think it's so many of them, but Dr. Bobby Wright. But yeah, if I had to put them all on the top though, I would say it'd be a toss-up between Dr. Amos Wilson and Dr. Naeem Akbar.
Wow, okay, I like that. Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Ausar, for the questions. As you said, this was a really good part of the panel, and now I'm going to move on to Marquis. So, Marquis, definitely, first of all, I got to say, bro, I enjoyed reading The Birth of the Yogi. It was a really great read, and there were a couple poems that stood out to me. The first one I think that really stood out to me was You've Judged. That was really good. And, you know, I'm going to just read a piece of it, because you said, you've judged without knowing, you've judged but fear judgment. You've judged and critiqued things your heart is in love with. What has that brought you? What has that left you? You want to be favored, but you don't accept you. You don't respect you, going back on your word. If you're honest, you think stress is what you deserve. You can do so much, you can be much more. Check that ego. It won't serve you moving forward. Check that pride. That's for others to have for you. If you're real, you'll rise, and there's nothing man can do. You'll do the work, you'll prove your worth. You'll free yourself, release judgment to free others in need of help. So my question to that is, you know, you describe how judgment can not only affect others, but also oneself. Would you say we judge others because we're ultimately not happy with ourselves?
That's where it stemmed from. I was very unhappy with myself in a lot of ways I wasn't aware of. And as I was doing my practice, that's how I got to writing the book. I had the opportunity to work with Black Male Yoga Initiative. So a brother named Bell from the Baltimore area started a virtual yoga training. He still does yoga training for Black men and women. And as we were doing the different practices, the first thing that he told us is be conscious of your judgment. He said, don't stop judging. Don't shame yourself with judging, but just be conscious of the way you judge. From the first class we had, and I recognized, okay, I judge everything all day. Judgment is one of my tools. And I recognized it was a tool even as like in survival, right? I'm judging the room, I'm assessing the room. What's that over there? I'm photographic memory of the room. I'm seeing things in that corner as I'm looking at you. Like because of this hyper alert thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
So yeah, judgment was a really big one in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something we all got to work on, you know, and I like how you just expounded on that, because I think a lot of times when we are not happy with ourselves, we want to project that unhappiness on other people by judging them, like, you know, look at them, like what makes them so much better, or things of that nature. And I think a lot of times we're not comfortable with ourselves. We want to push that discomfort on other people. Would you say that's the case as well?
It was false safety, right? So I remember in high school, I started on the poetry in school, but there used to be people I would sit next to during the assemblies, and I would talk about the person on stage. Like, oh, they look goofy. They don't know what they're doing. I could do it better, or whatever. And I make these jokes, and we just be laughing, having a good old time, being real disrespectful. But ultimately, I wanted to be on stage.
Right.
And then as I progressed through high school, I'm on stage, sweating under my armpits, like can't breathe, my stomach is touching, like I'm scared, and I'm like, oh, that. So I recognized, I leaned into it. Think I'm judging and saying, oh, they don't know what they're doing. I want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they say the thing that we don't like about someone else is the thing that we wish we had.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes.
I like that. And moving on to your next question, there's another poem that I see I can, oh, here it is, turn right to it. So another poem that stood out to me was New Me. So you said, I've changed so much and I've changed so quick that there are things that happen that I don't even get. I let things roll off, and time I once spent thinking about what could have and should be no longer pays rent. In my mind, I'm happy in ways that are hard to explain, especially to people who always complain. I'm dropping the bags, I'm releasing the past. I've forgiven myself, I'm not looking back with resentment. I look back now understanding that all they did their best, and no matter what happened, I'm still here. I made it, I survived, and I will keep going on until I'm called by the Most High. So you speak on, looking at your past with understanding and not with resentment. Also, you speak on being happy with yourself at this point in your life. What was the moment of your journey that you came to that revelation? And how has being an author, yoga instructor, and a podcaster allowed you to find that happiness within yourself?
That has been a funny thing because a lot of it has been affirmation, right? So,
I'm sorry, you said it happened after what?
oh, I said it's been funny, like the process of healing, because at different points it became affirmational. Some of it was I've overcome something, and then I found a new thing that I'm dealing with. I like Michelle's book a lot, Becoming a Great Man, because Cyrus goes on these different journeys. I won't give the book away, but it's different times where Cyrus is having to lean on faith in a way that you can't explain. Like I had to lean on faith in a way that I can't explain to become a black yoga instructor at the age of 26 in East Baltimore. Like I'm from East Baltimore. I've been labeled things by psychiatric hospitals. My family already made me this weirdo, so I don't want to do anything weirder than what I've already been classified to do. And this is one more. No, he's doing yoga now. What is he up to? So it was all of this overcoming of self, and I think that is like the part we're talking about, the triggers of it all. The yoga is because of triggers. The new me is a continual process. Like I'm meeting a new me every time I overcome these hurdles or these different traumas that started in childhood, and then traumas that happen in adulthood. So there's new things. I'm like, oh, that was a lot. I haven't even unpacked. I didn't process that yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't made space to process it either. So that new me and just the book in general came at that time after I graduated my yoga journey, and I lost a lot of people in the process. Lost a lot of friendships, family dynamics restructured. Like I couldn't talk to people in my family the way I used to because now I'm eating different and I'm standing on it. Yeah. Now I'm going to the yoga practice and I'm standing on it. There's nothing. Before it was like, hey, you want to come with me? It wasn't even. I'm not even doing invitations out anymore. I'm going here by myself. I'm going to Philly tomorrow. What you doing in Philly? You don't know anybody? I don't know anybody in Philly. And I'm going tomorrow because the Bruce picnic is this weekend, and I paid for the ticket. You going by yourself? Yes, and God gonna cover me. What are you talking about? And then I meet a brother from Houston, and I meet a sister that stayed up there, and we become good friends on Facebook, and I end up meeting a sister who gives me an opportunity in Philly to teach yoga to some of my friends. And it was all of these different things that started to come into my life because I released the need for people to join me on the journey, people that I thought were supposed to be there with me. So,
yeah, I like that. Apparently, I have some people in the audience like that too. Shout out to you all. That was good. Yeah. But I like that how you basically what I just thought about it was basically just standing on business. You know, saying that first. Yeah, that's our saying, for us young folk. But I like how you take those steps and you stand on business. And I like something you said too, is that I think as you've gotten older, you've learned to process certain traumatic experiences better. Because I think when we're young, it's sometimes we know we're going through something traumatic, but we just can't grasp what we were going through at that particular time. So I like how you said that, and that actually resonates to me because I'll use myself as an example. One of the things, and before we get back to you, I'm gonna say this real quick. One of the things that I talked about even in my book was how I went through the unfortunate experience of growing up in a cult. And as a child, I didn't quite understand that, but it wasn't until I got older where I was able to sit and write about that process and what I went through, because I've gotten that clarity and that perspective as I've gotten older. And I like how you talked about that because a lot of times, like I said, we don't understand what we went through when we were young. We know it's something is there, but sometimes we need to get a little bit older to understand what we went through. And if we can't understand as we get older, I think that's when people like Dr. Ausar come in, they can explain, hey, this is what you went through when you were young, and this is how it's affecting you as you've gotten older. So I like how you talked about that too.
Brother, there are many jewels in your journey.
Oh, yeah.
There are many jewels in your journey.
I'm like, what? I just, literally, when you said that, I was like, what?
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't have no idea. I gotta
The
get your
bus,
Well,
the
book. I have
bus
to read your
accident.
book. What?
The bus, you mentioned
Oh,
the
yeah.
bus with
Yeah.
mom. You mentioned catching the bus with mom. You mentioned these moments
Yeah.
of Polly. And I think what is so funny because I talked to Michelle about it. Michelle was one of my first interviews in the car.
I remember that.
Or, like
yeah.
one of the early interviews.
Yeah.
Our traumas are running concurrent.
Yes.
We're not dealing with this alone. When I'm feeling isolated and depressed, most of my family is too. Some people just wear it differently. Mom's was going through as I'm feeling suicidal.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm also feeling suicidal. But we didn't have the space to talk about it and translate our emotions in a way that was healthy enough.
Yeah.
But mom has recession bills still popping in 2010. Like 2008 housing market crash. She got a hair salon and a house, 2 cars. She got all the things they said go get in that era. And she got bills that are now piling up. And then she's not catching up with them. And then I'm starting high school and I need back to school clothes. And I'm trying to be fresh on the first day. Who's not trying to be fresh on the first day? Not you. You got to take that money you work for at YouthWorks. So now the thing is like, okay, we put on this facade that we have money. Everybody in the family think we got money. We strapped for cash. You can't pull back now. After all that pride you came up to the cookout with, I don't need no help from nobody. Now you need a lot of help from a lot of somebodies. All them nobodies.
Yeah.
So I just think that is hilarious. As I was reading your book, I was like, bro, like I would have had no idea if you didn't write your experience, and that is what the blessing is.
Yeah.
Writing our experiences, sharing our pains as much as we share our triumphs.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, at Poly, it was days that were dark for me, especially during that time.
Yeah.
And when we had a class, he wasn't even in our class, but we had a peer that committed suicide.
Yeah.
When we were in the 10th grade, he was a senior. He committed suicide because he had I think he had a disease. He had something that he found out about that he knew was going to take him out. He's like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And he made that decision, and a lot of people were hurt by it. And I was in like throes of my depression, like very confused, very afraid, and I was contemplating taking my life. And when I saw how that impacted people, it was twofold. It was like I saw the friends who really loved him and were hurt. Then I saw people calling him names. And I was like, how? I heard people having conversations. Well, how could you say that?
Right.
It's not even your space to talk about what you would have done in a dark space like that, as I'm in a dark space. I'm like,
Right.
you motherfucker. That's how I felt. So that was another spark for me. Like, I can't quit.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care what comes across my plate. I gotta keep showing up. And I don't know what it look like. I won't always do it perfect. I might start something and not finish it. But I know that I got another day to go complete whatever mission I said I would come back with.
Yeah. And
And I think that's the thing. Keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. And before we move on, I like what you said too, because when you talk through that experience about us losing our fellow poly classmate, it's just a lot of people say, well, I wouldn't have done that, but it's like, how do you know? Because especially when you've never been in that position.
Absolutely.
We don't, I think the beauty about empathy is that I don't need to necessarily know the exact experience that you're going through, or like, I don't need to necessarily relate to it, but I understand it. Like, I know what it's like to be depressed, because there were some dark days for me at Poly too. But I can't say that, well, I wouldn't take myself out because I've never been in that point where I wanted to do that. But I can at least understand if someone who is in that position who says that, I can at least say, okay, I understand maybe why that person felt like that, because they lost hope. They felt like there was no hope for them to turn to. And I think we have to be careful of us not looking down at people in certain positions, because if we're in that same position, we sometimes want that same reaction from other people. And you know, that's kind of a little bit, not only mean, but I would even say kind of a little borderline narcissistic for us to do that, you know, by not having that connection to people when it comes to situations like that.
I struggle giving individuals, like you said, what they need in that particular time, because I can't. When I was going through the same thing, I didn't get what I needed.
Yes.
So I don't even know how to do that or what that looks like. And it's just like I kind of went through it's almost like I went through those hard times and those dark times, especially as an adulthood, alone. Or actually people left because of those dark times that I was in. And so I kind of got used to doing everything and dealing with everything by myself. And it just created this hard, like I have a hard shell. Like it's just so hard to, like of course I feel, but it's just like, at this point, sometimes I'm just like, come on, okay, we're gonna have this moment, okay, but we're gonna get up and we're gonna go. We're gonna do. Like I kind of work myself out of my pain, my trauma, like do work, like physically write or do something or go after another dream or another venture. It's like I don't know how to just sit still and feel it and go through it and process it. Like I just give myself a little bit of time, and I expect everyone to do the same around me, and it's just that's not realistic. That's not realistic. That's not even healthy. That's not even healthy for me. Like somebody need to tell me, like that's not okay for me to do. Like, so it's just
And you're not alone.
Yeah.
That's why it's wild right now, because that's a thing I'm constantly seeing in relationships. I've had some moments where it's like, we're not gonna work past this. We're not gonna out-succeed this. There's not gonna be a salary number that makes us comfortable if we are not comfortable with ourselves. And it is difficult to recognize we're still grieving. It's difficult to recognize that it's certain things that are gonna be big blocks later on. Like I said survivor's remorse earlier. It's because I know I got a cousin who was murdered. I got cousins who were murdered. I got cousins who didn't have the same upbringing and they didn't have access to certain knowledge. Like we talk about knowledge. And then I get the knowledge. I'm like, take the knowledge. And it's like, the knowledge. And I laugh because I read different things like what's the proverb that the poor man's wisdom is, or it profits nothing in his own land, there's a proverb about a man who is.
I think it's a prophet has no honor amongst
It
his
is
own.
yeah.
So I would say just that I think communal spaces where we can rest is a big thing as well. That's part of what yoga is for me. When we end the practice, we do something called Shavasana. It's called Shavasana, but it translates to corpse pose or corpse pose. And it's essentially lie there, don't move, allow these binaural beats or whatever you can walk through to just soothe you. Breathe in until your body essentially just has no sensation, and you just relax on the mat. Some people have made it to be a demonic thing because there's not enough knowledge around it, but essentially yoga is a spiritual practice that was adopted by different religions. So Hinduism, Buddhism, some of the more popular religions based around it, but you can do yoga from a Christian standpoint. You can do yoga from a Judaic standpoint. You can do yoga from whatever you genuinely believe in, because it's your physical practice that is now allowing you to get a better clarity around the chakra system within us, and even chakra system. We call it chakra system, but it's just mind, mouth, heart, solar plexus, stomach. What am I putting in my stomach? The root chakra, which is sacral, the lower vibration. Oh, why do I like that Cardi B song? Why does she feel so good shaking her butt? Because there's energy down there. She's shaking up some energy down there in that root chakra. So it is. There's a lot of different things that awareness and knowledge give us insight to. But winter, environment. It gets dark at 5. When it's getting dark at 5 for 3 months straight, who's that happy? I mean, some people love it. Some people love the isolation. I don't like the cold. I don't like the dark, and I don't like making plans and it's dark at 5, so I'm not going out after that. And it's 13 degrees.
Bet. See you tomorrow.
Exactly. And that leaves my next point, leading to yoga. So was yoga the main was yoga the main inspiration behind the birth of the yogi? Or would you say the birth of the yogi has been an inspiration on your journey to be a certified yoga instructor?
I would say yoga was the inspiration. When we started to practice, like I said, non-judgment was the first principle, but there were 7 spheres of mindfulness: acceptance, patience, trust, letting go, non-striving, non-judgment, and beginner's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked at each one, I started to speak about them through my poetry, unknowingly, because I would have reflections. I would finish a practice and just reflect on my day. I would reflect on what's going on around me. I would have more introspection about myself. Okay, you're still prideful. You say you want support, but you don't really want support. Because when I'm on the mat, we do practices together. So black men are doing yoga, right? And I like to go hard. Like I like to get the planks in. I like to do a headstand. I like to try to force certain poses that I'm not ready for. I feel a little tension in certain parts of my body, but I'll go to the pose anyway. And that is a signifier that I don't want the support that I'm asking for all the time. Because in the practice, there's also different, we call them supports, but like blocks. There's a bolster that supports your back. There's a strap, so you don't got to stretch as far. There's different types of padding for your mat. There's blankets. There's different things to support our joints, our mobility. So yoga isn't a practice that you gotta be super fit or white. That's what America's made it a little bit in a funny way. It's not a white woman's thing. It's literally everybody can do this practice.
Yes.
Like I said, just getting those, recognizing I didn't want support on the mat, maybe reflect, okay, how am I showing up to get the support I need in real life? Like, am I asking mom for what I need? Am I asking Elijah, hey, you got anything that I could be supported? Like, am I asking for the support that I'm needing?
Yeah, that's great. And how has yoga and writing improved your overall wellness as far as mental health is concerned?
Man, writing has been one of those things that's been with me since I was young. So my first poems were in high school. Yeah. I just looked at the composition books and I got rid of some of them because I just want to like release that energy. Mm-hmm. But I started writing around the time that Devin hurt himself. I started writing in that dark moment of my life. My father was in the Afghan war. My mom was struggling with a lot of different things financially. The house was cold. I think, what was it? The furnace went up. So the furnace went up and we didn't get that joint fixed for like 6 weeks. So I'm in the room with blankets over top of a fully dressed body. Some days. My grades are abysmal. I did so well my freshman year that they put me in AP and honors classes at Poly. Poly is already a struggle. Now I got AP American Government. I got English 2 honors, and we had 3 books for summer reading, and a book we were expected to read the first week we got there. Yeah. I had geometry and was it physics that year? No, it was chemistry.
Chemistry was temporary. Yeah, chemistry was sophomore year. Yeah.
My heart hurt just talking about it a little bit.
Oh, freshman mine too. I couldn't stand chemistry.
And shout out to Wavy. No disrespect. Shout out to Mr. Gibson. He had a rule that if you don't get to his class on time, you have detention. It was no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm coming from the lunchroom. Mm-hmm. The lunchroom at Poly is at least a half a block away. It's like a half a block, and this is away from his classroom. So we rushing to get, everything was anxious. Everything was rushed. Poly is over west. I live over east. I live down the street from here. At by Valentino's. I'm catching the bus over here after school. I gotta get that 3:33 if I won't be home by 5. And sitting in the house minding my business. So it's all of these different elements externally. I'm like, what do I do? And then I froze. I froze and I got mad. I'm sitting in the back of the Algebra 2 class with Trig. Algebra 2 with trigonometry? I don't care, and I can't see. I didn't know I couldn't see until 10th grade. So everything and I'm starting to blame, but then I'm turning on myself, like, what are you, too dumb? You're not good enough? Because I was told, like, you're so intelligent. up until that point. I was great at middle school and elementary. I didn't have to study. Probably I had to study. I had to put in that effort.
Yeah.
And it tested everything in me. So like I said, I started writing there, and that has always been that was my first healer. Yoga came and it assisted everything that already was healing me. Writing, music, good food, community had always been the things that I lean on. I come from a very big family, so village is important. If my mama come watch me, like my aunt was taking that place. My aunt was joking the other day, like, you know how I raised you? I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, I see the pictures, it was us a lot. And I got 7 aunts. So, like, I think that's the part that we're not gonna get it academically.
Yeah.
We gotta get that just off common sense and feeling. Like, if you got a sister and she don't watch the kids, we gotta address that.
That's true.
If I got a brother and he don't show up for me in my dark moments, my tire flat, we gotta address that. I can't be trusting AAA. At least like stay on FaceTime with me. Like, we gotta address this common sense. Like, if we tell the community we're having a conversation about 4 black authors in Baltimore, Maryland, where this was the crack capital, where this was lead checks, where this was all the things that it's said to be. If we say we're having a meeting and we don't got a full room, that's on us. That don't got nothing to do with a community outside of our own. So that's why I was like, okay, I got family that's not showing up for me. I gotta show up for myself.
Yeah.
And like I said, just finding those little things, the writing, the physical. Sometimes we lose track of these different things. We might be working, we might be in a season where we gotta just lock in with work and we can't be physical. Finding a little thing to just keep in our rotation. It doesn't have to be every day, but it could be once a week. And that could be a class that I teach, or the different brothers that I roll with, you know. Shout out to Daily Growth Building.
Hey, absolutely.
And Changa Bell.
Absolutely. And I think that's wonderful, man, the journey that you've been on. And I thought about, like how you brought up some stuff from Polly, because it's funny. I still have, and I want to say shout out to the Floyd lyricists on this. I still have the DVD of the concert from like 2013 in my house. Which I think you performed on too. So
Don't do it.
It's still in my house, man. I haven't watched it in a minute, but definitely to see you definitely come from there to where you are today, man, it's awesome. So definitely shout out to the Floyd lyricists, to Polly, and helping us all get to where we are today. So, and my last question is one more poem that stood out to me. This is a letter to the doubter. Here you go. You said, "I'm not that diagnosis. I'm not that day. I'm not that moment. It's been 7 years of healing, and the prayers and the focus have been on doing what I'm told by God. I know y'all get scared, but please remain calm. I'm a spirit that cannot be broken. I've made it through fire, through fear, and troubling emotions. I've made it out to the other side of a storm that was heavy. There were people there with me, but most of them left me. I asked God to remove folks that are not for me. Moments came, and they went right with the prophecy. People blame me for the ways they show up. It's no harm, it's no foul. I will always show love. It's just so wild how it all plays out. If you're wondering if I'm good, I'm good, and keep my name out your mouth. If you ain't, by the way, that's kind of some Will Smith energy right there. Okay, all right. Just don't stop nobody, that's all we ask for. If you ain't speaking on it with love or speaking to me respectfully. So with that said, for my last question, if you could give advice to your younger self about overcoming the doubters in your life, what advice would you give?
Man,
That's a good question.
advice about overcoming the doubters. I would tell them stop trying to get them to like you. I would tell them stop trying to prove points to them. And to accept that you are different, and it's never a bad thing.
Right.
I think the thing that I was in denial of is I wanted to sit at the table.
Yeah.
I wanted to be with them. I wanted to impress them.
Yeah.
Even the work I was doing at times, like, oh, look at this thing, and it's like, okay. The part that it starts with is like, I am not that diagnosis, I am not that moment, I am not that day.
Yeah.
Like, just that energy. And there'll be things that y'all won't understand. Don't be worried. Type of thing is that's all of this, it becomes. There's gonna be a lot of things that don't make sense. Something's gonna tell you to catch this flight with this friend to Seattle and spend a weekend with them and their family. And you just go. But the part that is like, that I have to stay grounded in at all times is like, this is not my journey, this is greater than me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is something I'm allowed to do. This is not about, it's not about me. I think God uses us to show other people what's possible.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all have the capacity to be great. I think some of us answer the calling, and I don't always think it's linear. It's not always pretty. It gets pretty ugly, in fact. So like I just think that part with the doubter, I think don't try to impress them.
Yeah.
Just be yourself, because one of the hardest parts for me growing up was recognizing that eyes are on me even when I don't want them to be. I'm 6'4" now, right? There's nobody that's like I'm gonna be seen off the height, right? I'm gonna be a commanding voice. Like it's just these things that I couldn't run from. So I give that to anybody. These things that we're often afraid of being. My biggest fear was stepping on stage to talk. Now is the thing that I carry with me. I wrote a post the other day. I wouldn't look up when I got my awards at school. Like I would get a principal's list award in perfect attendance.
Yeah.
And like 2 honor rolls. I don't know how they came with 2 honor rolls. They just giving out certificates. Like, okay. And I walk up there and I hunch back and stand in the back. I'm taller than the person in front of me. And I'm still hunching over. I don't want to be seen. My parents weren't in the crowd. And early on, a trauma pattern for me was seeing people who shine get shot down.
Yeah.
Like early on. Baltimore kills the people that shine. I don't know what that is, but it happens. Scooter, K-Swift, there was a local DJ that was murdered that my aunt was friends with. Different people I just was in space, but I was like, that dude was cool. Oh, oh God. So it was just that thought, like, if I shine too bright, they're gonna clip these wings. So just that trauma pattern. And then the other thing, it wasn't even Baltimore. In second grade, me and my mother doing this project. My mother goes all out. She's like, she got the box, she's cut the box over, she's made it a TV, she's got like the little cardboard figures that she made, and there's a shadow joint, so we gotta do the flashlight on it.
Yeah.
Where in the room is me, my brother and sister, and my mom. Working on this project all night. She puts on Malcolm X. I'm a second grader watching Malcolm X.
Wow.
Like I'm taking it in, I'm like, that guy's dope. That guy's awesome. I don't know how it's gonna end. But I'm just watching this man stand on business. Whole way through. Stand on business. And when I watch him get assassinated at the end of the movie, I'm like, he killed himself. But I'm just like, I'm shedding tears.
Right, yeah.
And my mother's affirming to me, ain't no space in the world for us like that. My mother's like, in real time, like, yeah, that's what happened when we do too much, type thing. Like, she's not saying it, but she, like, I feel it, and I'm not gonna say that's exactly what she said. That's what I took away from the moment. That's what happened to us when we do too much. So then I'm in school, I'm upright, I'm articulate. I'm from East Baltimore. My cousin was 3 years old cursing this. Everybody was proud. Like, I'm articulate. You talk white. All these different things. So, like, I'm saying, I think when we really make spaces to protect the people that are feeding our community, and we show that you can live and eat and thrive doing good works like this space is a testament to living, eating, and thriving doing good works. You putting this event together is a testament to it. Because not only did you make space for yourself to promote your book, you made space for other authors. Like, this is the God. This is the God everybody's asking for, right? So, that was a tangent.
No, it was great, man. That's what we have this space here for. I mean, it's beautiful what you guys are saying, that was great. So I'm gonna try to speed things up a little bit because I know Dr. Ausar gave us an extension till 5. So I'm going to, because we had one last author who couldn't be with us today, but I am going to try to tell everybody about it. Trey Brown was our last author. Unfortunately, he could not be with us today, but he is that is his fiancee Michelle. There'll be time to knock in September. And I did start reading his latest book, which is Dreams of Tomorrow, which you can find on Amazon. Now, Michelle, I'm curious, did Trey ever explain to you how he got the name Power of the Great? Because I thought that was very interesting, his stage name right there.
Trey told me a lot of things. So, Power of the Great, I'm trying to remember. Because he told me about, he goes by different names, Mayhem. And I feel like we just had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I did not remember.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely told him, I said, hey, it's an interesting name, and definitely, if I get a chance to meet him, I gotta ask him that. In addition to him.
Probably because I'm sorry to cut you off, but probably the way his penmanship, like his poetry, like when he performs, that man is the great. He's the greatest. When he comes, it's been times where I never seen him perform in person. Right, but he performs when we're on FaceTime.
Right.
And just so everyone knows, he's long distance. He lives in Connecticut. I live in Baltimore, so we do a lot of FaceTiming and talking on the phone, and I love it. And so he's performing these. So I get private poetry performances, and his penmanship, his words, his vocabulary is off the charts. I'd be like, hold on, what does that word mean? I mean, even when he's communicating with me in regular conversations, his metaphors, he is gifted. His way with words. He's currently writing a novel, and he's mixing storytelling with poetry in the novel, and he lets me read some of it. So what he has written so far, and I'm just like, man, how do you come? And he comes up with it fast. He can write a poem in 5 minutes. I've seen him do it. I've seen him his mother sent me a picture of him performing for city council, a city councilman, and he literally wrote it right before he went on to perform. And he delivered it, and he wrote it, and it was good. He said he did great. So it's probably his penmanship, his performance, all the P words, his penmanship, his performance, his poise. I'm just speaking from my heart of what I see in him.
That's beautiful.
And it's the great. So.
I love that.
You got a good representative.
I told him I was gonna represent him. I told him.
Hey, that's wonderful. I think I say this as somebody who's single himself. Fellas, you gotta find you a queen who supports you like Michelle does Trey. But one of the things that we talked about, kind of what Marquis talked about with people doubting dreams. So I was going to say this to Trey because I noticed in the what was it? I think it's the dedication. He dedicated some of the his books. Some of the people actually doubted him, which I thought was very interesting because most people don't typically do that. And I was going to ask him, but I'll open this to everybody. What if you could offer someone advice on how to overcome people who doubt his or her dreams? What would you say to that person as someone who's been able to overcome those doubters yourself?
I will never forget the moment when Kanye won that Grammy, and he said, everyone wanted to know what would happen if I didn't win.
Yep.
I guess we'll never know.
Oof.
So you just gotta, how to overcome your doubters is just make it happen. Make the very thing that they're doubting happen. But don't do it for them, do it for you. Because doubters only project what's in themselves. It's not really you that they're doubting, it's the fact that you they doubt themselves, and you may even doubt yourself, but you decide to do it anyway. And like I said, most people don't like the very thing that they wish they had in others. And I experienced a lot of doubt. Conversations I didn't hear and conversations I did hear that was told in my face. You're a broke artist, you're not making any money, you live at home with your mother. I mean, and I remember, when you're down bad, you remember everything that someone said or did to you. And especially when you're trying to make a dream come true and you're trying to, the most thing that we want as artists trying to make that dream come true is support. Support is very important to us. Because we are going to look different. It is going to look a little crazy sometimes. But if you can just support us on this journey until we make that, until we make it, and whatever that making it looks like for you, it could be just as simple as just making, writing my book. I made it, I did it. I did that very thing I said I was going to do. So that support is very important, and we already doubt ourselves sometimes. So we don't need you to add extra doubt to us. We already struggle with that. We already struggle with the fear and, people rejecting us and, doubting that it may or may not work. Like we're already going through that. We may not say it, we may show up confidently, but we're struggling internally too. Yeah. And we're just using our art to heal us. Because that's all it is. Art is healing.
Absolutely.
And it's healing for the artist.
Yeah, Marquis or Dr. Ausar, you want to elaborate on that?
I think I agree with everything you said. It's going to be a lot of isolation. What was the question?
So, if you could offer someone advice on how to overcome people who doubt a person's dreams, what would you say to that person as someone who's been able to overcome those doubters yourself?
It really just becomes keep going, and don't. Like I mentioned a lot earlier, just don't give them that. Don't put your energy on them. Yeah. We spoke about faith and fear earlier.
Yeah.
Right. Faith and fear exist in the same plane. It's like I have the choice to have the faith that it'll happen, or I have the choice to have the fear that the worst possible outcome is what's going to happen. Another thing I speak about a lot is imagine the worst possible outcome. Yeah. Right? I used to get on the stage and do the poems in front of the school. My worst possible outcome is I peed my pants in front of everybody. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what that was. So I went to the bathroom 3 times before I went up there. I didn't drink any water, so my mouth was dry. But my point in it is prep up until the point that you can't prep anymore and leap. Right? It's like prep up until the point that you can't prep anymore and leap. And there's still gonna be doubt. There's still gonna be that little but when you jump out of that plane, if you know the guy that's helping you get to the ground has done this 7,000 times before you, and you know that plane was at the proper height, and you've already done the study, trust. The next part is just faith. What if I land on the ground and make $1 million because they show me on the news tonight? Yeah. Like, who knows? But just what if the best possible outcome is now the other side of that coin? So, yeah, the doubters are needed, but you can get past them. You can get them.
Absolutely. Dr. Ausar?
Yeah. Yes, he actually closed out what I was going to say. They're necessary.
Yes.
I think there's various degrees of doubters or people who doubt. So they're needed because I appreciate doubters still. That's just the way they see things. Sometimes we need some grounding. So we can go to them. Some people are anxious.
I had to get your number. I had to get your number. I had to get your number. Come talk to me, I really wanna. I had to get your number. Come talk to me, I really wanna. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute.
Goddess in the flesh, got me nervous, I'm impressed. You done been around the sun more than anyone I met. Said I love your style of hair, and I love the way you dress. There's a reason you are here, in your eyes I see success. And love, and marriage, and the lives we'll lead. You're soft and you're sweet, feel like what this could be is a real life dream. Real life, yeah. Like Devontae said, come and talk to me.
Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute. Riding through, I see. I had to get your number. You were fly, you were cute.
Felt your presence from a mile away, huh? Tell me if you got a man or got a bae, huh? I done prayed for this, I done prepared for this very day. Please don't make me wait, let me love you to the end of days. I'ma stay with it, my thoughts simmer, now my heart big. I need a lever, do you need a nigga? We can love each other unconditionally. I ain't talking rubbers, that's beyond the covers. Tell me, did I stutter? I can't love another one, hope you feeling me too.
Riding through,